Hello all, this is the Owl, and as you can tell, I'm not recording in my usual environment, so apologies if this sounds a little janky. So, this will be a bit different to my usual content, but I've had over a dozen people messaging me about this on the Discord and asking me for my thoughts, so well, I guess it's time for a quickie. Oh, and before we start, apologies in advance for my pronunciation of names here, because I am not a K-pop fan at all, and I know almost nothing about the genre. So, as you may or may not know, there's recently been something of a kerfuffle about a good few K-pop idols who've come out saying that they're big fans of Made in Abyss. Generally referring to the anime, I assume, and this turned basically overnight into an online drama currently setting Twitter X, whatever the hell you're supposed to call that hellscape, now on fire, ranging from Woozy to Minji to TXT's Subin. I swear, I think people made me do this just to hear me say these words. I'm too old for this stuff by about 20 years. Several idols got called out pretty vocally for their stated enjoyment of the anime, to the extent of people going back and digging up tweets by Les Seraphim, from years ago saying the same. But why was this so controversial? Well, let's say there's a surface reason and what I suspect is a below the surface reason, but I could be wrong about the latter. We'll get there. So, surface reason. Made in Abyss is a very dark, very graphic, and at times very squicky anime about a young girl who decides, rather foolishly, to descend through the Lovecraftian nightmare of the Abyss. An immense fathomless pit that is a world unto itself in search of her mother. She is accompanied by her android, cyborg, robot, you know what, its complicated companion Reg. And along the way, she adds several other companions to her party, such as furry bait Nanachi, and my personal favorite character of the series, Best Sheep Moth Fox Cat Loaf Girl Faputa. Of course, things go horribly wrong pretty quickly, and it only gets worse from there, with sequences including dismemberment, mutilation, cannibalism, and way worse, creating a horror in disguise extravaganza of a level not seen since, I don't know, Higurashi. Yes, as you can tell, I'm a fan. Now, a good few critiques have been made about Made in Abyss, and in the recent drama, it's been referred to as child abuse, grooming, and, shall we say, naughty words. Let's say cheese pizza and leave it at that. You know, things you can't say on YouTube now. As well as expanding out further into the wretched lolly debate, which I'm not going to touch, and this formed the nexus of the current drama, with some accusing said idols of supporting things like this and others saying they're being absurd. So, does any of this have merit? Well, it's complicated. See, the anime adaptation can be provocative at times, as well as insanely squicky, with young children not only being subject to horrific violence, but also at times scantily clad and involved in some, shall we say, mildly adult situations. However, while the anime does toe the line, nothing there rises to the level of abuse or porn, especially when you consider that the Korean adaptation is even more heavily censored than the Japanese. That said, some commenters did make reference to the manga, which definitely walks a lot closer to the edge of said line, and occasionally steps right over it, thanks to Akihito Tsukushi being a big pervy weirdo. Now, he has gone on record as saying that the excessive nudity is there to humanize and emphasize the vulnerability of the cast without sexualizing them, and yeah, okay, that's almost reasonable, but it does not quite explain certain panels and pages that have a very definite pin-up quality to them. You know the ones I'm talking about. So I do understand why people would have an issue with the manga, with K-pop idols having fan bases that skew fairly young, and Made in Abyss being very, very much adults only. Yeah, that said, as is the nature of the Twitter drama telephone game, it's all been amped up to an out of proportion level, especially as the idols did, for the most part, warn the audiences about the content at play here. That said, as I mentioned, I think there might be some other issues at play, as Korean message boards will demonstrate. See, Korea and Japan have a, let's say, tense relationship, and it's been this way for a long time, mostly due to a lot of stuff that Japan has gotten up to historically in the region, especially during wartime, as well as modern Japanese attitudes towards these matters that, yes, dancety dance, speaking about this stuff on YouTube is death, so Google it if you want. The relationship was so poor between the two countries that Japanese media was completely and utterly banned in the country until a gradual relaxing of these rules in the very late 90s. This ban does actually still remain in place to some extent today. Nonetheless, for certain folks, enjoying Japanese media is still seen as pretty problematic, and if you're fans of manhwa, open digs at Japan and the Japanese are pretty commonplace. It kind of is what it is. This has led to a great deal of criticism when Korean celebrities enjoy Japanese culture, which a lot of idols seem to do in the form of anime and manga, particularly anything that could be framed as being problematic. A good example would be Kang Hae-won and others saying they enjoy Attack on Titan, which got them a lot of flack due to some interpretations of the anime as promoting Japanese nationalism, leading to a lot of scrutiny, gossip, and even straight-up fabrications about the creator of the series being a massive anti-Korean bigot, with secret social media accounts where he made fun of war crimes. This was, in essence, him being used as something of a scapegoat for the aforementioned historical issues and cultural attitudes between the two societies. I did go into this in a lot more detail in my Big Iceberg video if you want to check it out there. This is why you'll see a lot of Korean social media users refer directly to Japanese when it comes to this sort of controversy. So, what is my take on all of this? Well, I've talked about it before in my deep dives on Made in Abyss. I do think that calling the anime in particular a promotion of molestation or grooming is more than a stretch, because it's not that. However, I will agree that some stuff in the manga is pretty hard to hand-wave away, and that maybe any celebrities, particularly those with younger audiences, could be a bit more emphatic about warning folks about the content, because it's a lot, even for a seasoned horror veteran like myself. However, I do also think that a lot of these dramas are really the head of the giant infected pimple that is the Korea versus Japan versus Korea versus Japan cultural issue, and that one's a bit out of the scope of today's discussion, at least for now. Oh, come on! well, that's going to be some fun discourse, especially the Jeju Island arc. But that's a topic for another time. Anyway, that's me for the day. Thanks as always for watching, and to my amazing patrons and supporters, don't worry, I'll have a proper video out for you guys soon. Cheers, take care, and I'll see you then. This is the Owl, signing off.